Love has never been a popular movement, and no one's ever wanted really to be free. The world is held together, really it is held together, by the love and the passion of very few people. Otherwise, of course, you can despair. Walk down the street of any city, any afternoon, and look around you. What you got to remember is what you're looking at is also you. Everyone you're looking at is also you. You could be that person. You could be that monster. You could be that cop. And you have to decide in yourself not to be.
I want to talk to you about a small moment from one of my favorite games. It's Disco Elysium. So, you wake up after the climactic tribunal scene, walk outside of Whirling-In-Rags and see this graffiti painted on the ground by the local artist, the girl named Cindy the Skull, who gleefully mocked your character for the last couple of days. It reads, "Un jour je serai de retour près de toi." It means one day I will return to your side. It's a reference to the Revachal's own history of political struggle and the failed revolution, and it's a line that is tied to the personal story of the protagonist more than it may seem at first. It is also the line that I've been coming back to in recent times more than ever, and it is not surprising. Given the massive rise in right-wing politics across the world, astronomical erosion of human rights and military conflicts in the name of preserving business as usual, that the game whose developers in their TGA acceptance speech thanked
Marx and Engels for providing us the political education
will feel a lot more relevant. But I don't think I've been coming back to the fateful morning matinee and the letters written in flammable oil on top of more than one side of bloodshed just because they feel relevant. As a somewhat depressed Eastern European leftist who is also part of a certain underground, Disco Elysium always expressed something buried deep inside that I wasn't able to find words for. No. I keep coming back to this line because now, more than ever, it is clear that it holds so much power, both inside the fiction of the game and the real world beyond the boundaries of the pale and the screen. In a time bleak and cruel, with evil child-murdering billionaires still ruling the world, this line stands in defiance of this very bleakness. It is a promise of a better tomorrow, the refusal to conform. Disco Elysium starts with a murder. No, scratch that. Disco Elysium starts with a
warm primordial blackness.
Our protagonist went on a bender of such epic proportions that he drank himself into a literal oblivion, forgetting everything about the world, even his name. But you don't need to worry about it right now. What you need to worry about is this big bowl with some apes duking it out, as your limbic system tells you. Because pretty soon the roar of the Kinua will wake you up. Little by little, we get our bearings. This is the 51st year, we're in the district of Martinez in the city of Revachal, on the Insulindian Isola, and we're a detective from the 41st precinct of the Revachal Citizens Militia. We still don't know our name, our home address, or why we drank so hard we factory reset our brain, although you may start having some ideas.
I think you screamed that you didn't want to be this type of animal anymore. I may have misheard, but it was sort of memorable.
Maybe we're Raphael Ambrosius Cousteau, or Tequila Sunset, or the Firestarter, or Harry Dubois. The world is truly a mystery. Walking around the district in search of your next clues and witnesses, you inevitably notice something. The city is ruined. The top floors of some buildings are shaved off by artillery fire, bullet holes riddle every wall, and everywhere you look, there is a somber reminder of a long-lost fight. Another guest of the charming matinee, Joyce Messier, an executive of the logistical company Wild Pines, that came to the city to deal with the labor strike at the local harbor, fills you in a little bit. Once, the revolution took place in Revachol, a communist uprising violently crushed by the coalition forces, the alliance of nations that, to this moment, occupied the city.
But the communists, they all got shot in the head. Oh, and the anarchists too. They shot them well. So well, one forgets they even existed.
Now the only thing left of the old revolutionaries are the bullet holes, the old forgotten bunkers, and the statues of the revolutionary philosopher Krasmazov. The history of the anti-centennial revolution is also where the phrase finds its roots. An urban legend that prophesizes that one day in the future, Revachol will be free again. The problem is, it is never the future, just one long and tiring now. There is a tangible sense of history in Revachol. You can't escape it while exploring its every corner, but it is history not preserved in marble and steel, but an angsty, painful history, like an old scar that can't seem to fully heal. It's in the broken facades of the buildings, in the broken facades of its inhabitants. Whomever you talk to, be it an old war vet or a young student, they all share it. The sense of future, their future, any future, being constantly out of reach. The streets of Revachol are paved with these lost futures, the idea coined by the British philosopher Mark Fisher. Revachol follows Fisher's idea to a word, and just like the city, Henry Dubois et al. Still clings to the remnants of his own past, desperately trying to bring back the bright old days of disco. But sometimes, there is no disco option. In the essay The Slow Cancellation of the Future, British philosopher Mark Fisher illustrates the same phenomena with an old detective show, Sapphire and Steel, saying,
Anachronism, the slippage of discrete time periods into one another, was, throughout the series, the major symptom of time breaking down. In this final assignment, the anachronism has led to stasis. Time has stopped. The service station is in a pocket, a vacuum. There's still traffic, but it's not going anywhere. The sounds of cars is locked into a looped drone. Silver says, there is no time here, not anymore. In 2004, Sapphire and Steel would come back for a series of audio adventures. By then, the audience was not the television viewing public, but the kind of special interest niche easily catered for in digital culture. Eternally suspended, never to be freed. Their plight never to be fully explained. Sapphire and Steel's internment in this cafe from nowhere is prophetic for a general condition in which life continues, but time has somehow stopped.
Revachol has spent decades under the coalition's control. Decades of one today blending into another, a uniformed mass of business as usual and price stability. A mass that, in all likelihood, pushed the protagonist to that bender that wiped the slate clean. Other people, however, chose less drastic measures. Some, like your partner Kim Kitsuragi, simply accepted the reality, hiding behind the veil of rationalization and professionalism. Others are constantly looking back, stuck in a perpetual state of nostalgia. Their lives governed by the force of hauntology. Going back to Mark Fisher,
Haunting can be construed as a failed mourning. It is about refusing to give up the ghost, or, and this can sometimes amount to the same thing, the refusal of the ghost to give up on us. The specter will not allow us to settle into for the mediocre satisfactions one can glean in a world governed by capitalist realism.
in a meta twist that I'm pretty sure was intentional, even the game's soundtrack can't escape the grasp of Hauntology. The music for Disco Elysium was written by the British indie rock band Sea Power, but Sea Power didn't exactly Right, the tracks. Almost all of them, if not the entire score, are comprised of remixes of their older songs. And it doesn't stop there. Fans of the band, or people who like me became obsessed with it after playing the game, will see many references to their material. Even one of the main locations, the Whirling-In-Rags hostel, comes from a Sea Power song. It seems like, no matter where you look in Revachol, from each bullet hole in the crack of pavement, lost futures are staring back at you. But there are those who still refuse to settle down for this existence out of time. During day 3, or maybe later, depending on how distracted your Harry is, you meet a group of young ravers, Sal, Noid, Andre, and Egghead, who honestly is the star of the show.
Hardcore! Hardcore! Hardcore to the mega!
They ask you to help them start a nightclub in the local abandoned church. In the already mentioned collection Ghosts of My Life, Mark Fisher writes,
In hauntological music, there is an implicit acknowledgement that the hopes created by post-war electronica or by the euphoric dance music of the 1990s have evaporated. Not only has the future not arrived, it no longer seems possible. Yet at the same time, the music constitutes a refusal to give up on the desire for the future. The refusal gives the melancholia a political dimension, because it amounts to a failure to accommodate to the closed horizons of capitalist realism.
This refusal to give up is clearly seen within the ravers themselves. Especially Andre, who is so desperate for the thing to work out, he initially wants to start a drug lab to support the club. And in a way, can you blame him? By the time you spent in Revachol at least 72 hours, no one goes to dances here, especially to a Eurodance-inspired rave. But still, they all need this win. Harry needs this win. Because without this, what else is left of the world?
There needs to be a club for Nordic music in there. Needs to. Everyone hates each other. Everybody hates it here. It's all just drugs and we're slaves and I can't. We are running out of time.
Disco Elysium was developed in Tallinn, the capital of Estonia, and the tumultuous story of its production has already been extensively covered. If you clicked on this video because you recognized the game from the thumbnail, there is a high chance you are aware of the exposé by People Make Games and everything surrounding it. And you have probably heard the story of how the early development of the game was largely financed by one of the co-founders, Core Kender, selling his car that once belonged to Dolph Lundgren. This is not really what I'm interested in. In an incredible twist of historic irony, the story of the game's development and the subsequent downfall of ZAUM ties back directly to the topic of this video. The thing is, Disco Elysium is a game that had very little odds of existing. Everything was stacked against the game, but it happened. Just like the Anti-Centennial Revolution, the ZAUM Collective did the impossible. Disco Elysium did not end up in a forgotten basement, but a game that back in 2019 swept every possible award show and became an instant classic. The future could not have been brighter, but it wasn't what actually happened. ZAUM's business partners and the jure owners of the studio forced the original creative lead Robert Kovitz, Alexander Rostov and Helen Hindpie to leave the studio. This we know. But at the time there were still original team members in ZAUM trying to keep the legacy of the game alive. The last remaining original writer of Disco Elysium, Aga Tulik, and the principal writer Dora Klinčić have been leading the work on a standalone Disco Elysium spin-off codenamed X7 since the summer of 2022. According to inside sources, the project was gravely mismanaged and lacked resources, leading to crunches and to both Argo and Dora having to perform multiple roles. But the team kept going until February the 15th of 2024, when the owners of ZAUM, no longer a collective, just your ordinary business venture, decided to lay off 25% of the staff, including Aga Tulik and Dora Klinjic, and stop the development of X7, which at the time was already in a pretty good state. To add insult to injury, many of the developers at ZAUM who raised complaints about working conditions became the targets for the massive layoff. In the interview to GLHF following his departure, Aga Tulik said,
"The individuals of ZAUM, the cultural movement, have left the corporate body behind, like the king cobra slithering out of its dead skin. Remember, we promised. Un jour, je serai de retour près de toi."
And the thing is, they did keep their promise. On October 11th, 2024, a group of former ZAUM developers, including Aga Tulik and Dora Klinjic, announced the creation of the new workers-owned studio Summer Eternal that joined the company of 3 other development houses tracing lineage to ZAUM to varying degrees. Red Info, founded by Robert Kurvitz and Alexander Rostov, Longview Games with their psychogeographic RPG Hopetown that, as of the moment of writing the script, has been successfully funded on Kickstarter, and Dark Math Games with XXX Night Shift. Though it seems the latter two didn't escape the ZAUM curse. So, let's go back to that line in that sunny morning outside Whirling-In-Rags. After this massive tangible weight of history, after British philosophers and young ravers trying to stave off the forces of capitalist realism, after very real suffering and humiliation endured by the very much real flesh and blood people who spent years of their lives trying to make this incredibly personal video game, why do I keep coming back to these words, written in red flammable oil? I mean, it feels almost funny. What a young girl with a brush can do against the thing so gargantuan it is seen as a force of nature. What a group of Eastern European developers can do against the industry that famously is more than happy to chew people up and spit them out like it's nothing. What can you do against the rising tide of fascism? What can I do? But on the other hand, these words are the most important first step. This is the refusal to give up, the refusal to conform, a message of hope to those who need it, and a warning for those who seek to subjugate. To quote the British anarchist and writer Nicholas Walter,
"It is just as dogmatic to say that things will never change as to say that things are bound to change, and no one can tell when protest might become effective and the present might suddenly turn into the future. And those who resist are scouts in a struggle which we may not win and which may never end, but which is still worth fighting."
Want to be free.
And I mean, what else is there to say when your revolution collapses before your eyes? When your life's work gets picked apart and sold for scraps to the highest bidder? When the future you were promised, the future you thought you surely had, gets snatched away to facilitate someone else's interests? When the weight of all the wrongs of the world seems unbearable, what's left is to put one thought in front of the other and say, hey, thank you for watching. This is the special message promised at the start of the video, and because there is absolutely no way in the world to segue into this organically, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. My name is Nina and I'm a trans woman. I've been dealing with the process of transition for the past year, so if you're wondering about that gap in uploads, now you know. This process is far from over, but I'm at a point where I am confident enough to talk about it publicly. As you may notice, I picked the absolute best time to do this, when the entire world spends literal billions on stripping us of our rights, our dignity, and very much our lives. Which brings me to the second part of this announcement. On July 5th and 12th, me, a video essayist, and absolutely wonderful neon purple blob Darkfry, and many other creators are hosting two 24-hour marathon streams of Disco Elysium to raise funds for a mutual trans friend and help her escape from a dangerous town. It will be Darkfry's first playthrough of the game, so it's gonna be a ton of chaotic fun. So if you're seeing this video before these dates, come say hi and help us do some good. And if you're watching this after the 12th, give trans people money and stand up for us. Because we need it now more than ever. Oh, and one more thing. See you.